Hello. Am I back? Am I back? Has it worked? After all of that, the trailers I did, everything was smooth and dandy. Everything was happening all with much fabulousness. And then I come back on to do it at 7 o'clock and it all stopped working. So I've been fanning around trying to get things back online, but here I am. Hello Jane, how are you? Haven't heard from you for a while, my lovely. How are you doing? How's life treating you? So good evening to those of you who are joining live, and also to those that are watching the recording as well, because I know a lot of you catch up with this. Hey Caroline, a lot of you catch up with this later on, either tomorrow morning or at some point during the next day. Now, I am going to fiddle a little bit because I've got some things popping up on my screen. Hello, Laura. How are you doing? How bizarre. That's really funny. Somebody has just messaged me to say hi, but they're actually talking about last week's, even 2-3 weeks ago, because I've not been here for 2 weeks. Well, I have been here. The first week was a bank holiday that I was away, which was the whatever it was of May, something of May. I'm glad to hear that life is good. That's nice to know, Jane. I'm glad to hear that. And then last week I was away in Spain, hence the bit of a tan as well, because as you may or may not know, I go over to a retreat a few times a year over there called Detoxed, -toxd.com if you want to check it out. And I go over there and I am their guest coach for a week. So you get a coach on tap, basically. So you can come and join us for the week. And not only do you get me on tap, but you also get to do juicing and exercising and take amazing walks in the mountains and get full care, and it's awesome. And one of the things that they also do over there, because you juice for a few days and then you go back on food afterwards. And there is a main reason, not only just to go on about my tan, but also to actually flag up to you this evening that once this is finished, I will find the page in a bit and come back to it to let you know, because they are launching their cookbook this evening, and I know that they are going to be doing quite a big giveaway as well, quite a spectacular giveaway. So what I will be suggesting, by the way, for some reason I'm not able to speak, I've noticed this the last few times. I will put the link below once I can find it later on, and invite you to go and join them for whatever they decide. I know one of the giveaways that they're going to be doing, but it's a pretty fantastic thing. So I would invite you to go and join it. And the food is amazing. So the cookbook I've already got on order. Can't wait for that to arrive so I can start cooking even more of their stuff. I've got loads of their recipes. But I'm going to stop talking about their stuff and reconnect back in with you and what is going on for you this evening, what has been going on in your world, because as I say, has been some while. I don't know who that was doing the thumbs up, but thank you very much. Do drop down and say hi if you haven't done so already, because I know we've got Jane, Caroline and Laura joining, but it's always nice to know who else is here so I can say hi and catch up and join in the conversation. So if you haven't watched, wow, hello Donna, nice to see you here. How are you doing, my darling? I know it's been a bit of a tough year for you so far, but thinking of you, I hope you're okay. I know that for some people, like Donna maybe, this is the first time that you might have watched one of these lives, and the way that I always start them, there's a little bit of waffle and stuff goes on at the beginning, for one of the main reasons being that it can take quite a while for Facebook to show up in people's timelines to say that I'm here and I'm going live. So you can make sure, if you see there's like those, I think it's on those 3 little dots, it's not, of course, it's not going to show it up on mine, is it? But if you click on those three little dots at the top corner, top right-hand corner, I think it is, of the video, then you can hit the button that says about getting notifications so that you know when this goes live. So you don't have to be clock watching or waiting for that. You can get the notifications to make sure that you know when it's happening. And basically, the point of these videos is for you to share them, for you to let me know when things are making sense or resonating with you, either by doing the thumbs up or the heart. And if things don't resonate with you or they're not making sense, then rather than do an angry face or other kind of emoji, is let me know so that we can have a conversation about it, because I might be able to explain things in a different way or might have misunderstood something. So this is about a conversation, and the more that you join in the conversation and share your thoughts, your insights, your questions, your concerns, whatever they may be, the more that you join in, the more that I'm able to give information or support if that's within my remit of knowledge. And if not, maybe it's another topic I can go away and look at and research and see what comes up next. So the topics tend to come out of conversations either with clients, or they may be themes that keep popping up through coaching clients. My main bulk of work is coaching. I'm also a speaker and run trainings as well. But my main bulk of work is working with people one-on-one and coaching them around all sorts of topics. But my specialism is around confidence and supporting people to understand what confidence really is so that they can engage with it in a different way and learn to access it more, rather than it being this elusive here 1 minute, gone the next, and feeling like you're having a confidence crisis or you've had a confidence knock. So basically that's what I do, and this as a forum is me bringing a topic to the table for us to have a chat about it and see how best I can support you from wherever you are at that moment in time. And one of the, and that's why I like it when people say hello, because I can check in with where you're at and what's happening with you and say hello. It's like welcoming you into my house, as I say, every week. So I'm sat here at my dining room table, so it's nice to be able to, imagining that you're coming in through the door and I can say, hi, welcome, let's have a chat. Excuse me. And hopefully I wouldn't burp in your face like I just did. One of the things the things that fascinates me is the pattern of language that people use over and over again. And so I listen out for certain phrases, or I notice, more than listen out for them, I tend to notice certain phrases. And something that I have noticed a lot, especially in the last couple of weeks, is how people are getting caught up in what I would describe as frustrations of life, by saying things like, well, why can't it be this way? Or why is it that way when it could have been that way? Or why isn't it this way? Or if only that person would have done this, or if only they wouldn't have done that. Or it's like they're moaning, or they're blaming, or they're passing judgment. They're getting disappointed. They're getting annoyed or sad or just frustrated with however something is and wanting it to be different. So this, working with people, what I'm noticing is how much pain and upset and frustration and annoyance and anger and discomfort that creates for these people. When they're experiencing this frustration and getting annoyed with, well, why is that thing that way? I want it to be the other way. And it's creating suffering for the individual, and potentially then that suffering, that discomfort, that annoyance, that frustration that person's experiencing then becomes displaced or pointed at or directed at other people around them and starts to influence them, whether that be in a work environment or whether that be at home or whether that be in a public environment. And it can be in relation to so many things. It can be everything from the topics that you're not meant to talk about, such as religion and politics. through to the weather or the bank statement or health or relationships or that work colleague or that boss or that manager, or it doesn't matter what it is. It can relate. It's like what it started to sound like, and I will explain more specifically the two things that I've noticed in the last less than a week, but it's in its simplest format. It's what I'm noticing is people are getting really frustrated because they have an idea of how something in their worldview should be. So it should be this way or it should be that way. And by the way, for those of you who are just joining live, do drop down and say hi so I can give you a shout out. And again, for those of you who are watching on the recording, because I can't give you a shout out live, this hello is just for you, but do drop down and say hi. So in its simplest format, how I perceive it is that this frustration, and you might not use the word frustration, you might describe it as being angry or fed up or pissed off or sad or disappointed or whatever it may be, is that we have this ideal view of, hey Hannah, we have this ideal view of how things should be. That's our perception. This is how things should be. And then we have this reality of how things are. So we have these two opposing. I've got two pens. Let me use that. So this is how I think things should be, or how people should be, and then this is how things are. And the frustration comes because those two things aren't matching. They're not in alignment. In fact, very often they're a mismatch. And our frustrations, and whenever I say frustrations, you can translate that into whatever is the right word for you. It might be frustrations, it might just be general annoyance, upset, sad, discomfort, fed up, whatever it may be. But it's the fact that these things don't match is what causes our discomfort. And we get annoyed that things are this way when we wanted them this way, and it's just not right. And then people, what I've noticed, just go on and on and on about how things should be, but they're not how they are, and that mismatch keeps happening. Does this make sense? Let me know if this is making sense and if it's resonating with you. And I shall give you a couple of examples that I experienced in the past week. One of which they both sort of made me laugh, really. Not outwardly, because I didn't want the people to know that. I didn't want them to perceive that I was laughing at them. I'm not laughing at them. I'm laughing at the kind of insanity that and I do it too at times, the insanity that people have. I'm getting some thumbs up that this is making sense. Brilliant, thank you. Hey Karen, how nice to have you here as well. For those of you joining live, do drop down and say hi and let me know as we're going through that the things are making sense. So what I'm talking about is how life's frustrations in its simplest form, I think, comes down to that this is how we think life should be, or people should be, or how we should be, and yet this is how they are, and we get annoyed that those two things aren't matching, that they're not in alignment, and that's where our frustrations come about. I've been guilty of this before, and sure I will again, Jane. Yeah, me too, I'm sure. So what was fascinating, I was flying back from Spain on Saturday, and even before we got on the plane, for whatever reason, I was flying with Ryanair, and Ryanair, literally, they land the plane, they get everybody off the plane, quickly clean the plane, refuel, get all the luggage off, and put the next people on. It's a very quick turnaround, but by the time that we were meant to be boarding, our plane hadn't even landed. So it was obvious pretty much straight away that the flight was going to be delayed. So already people in the queue I could overhear. I was on my own, so I earwig to conversations, just so you know. And I could already hear people saying, well, the plane shouldn't be late. Why is the plane late? That means we're going to be taking off late, and blah, 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 and how are we going to get there? And there was a couple in front of me, and the woman in particular was really starting to get herself quite agitated and frustrated and worked up because the plane, it wasn't on time. So this is her ideal. This is how she was perceiving it should be. But this was how it was. And because those two things weren't matching, for her, she was going into turmoil and going over it and repeating it, but over and over again. So anyway, so we got on the plane, and I've sat down, and people are piling on. It's obvious the plane's going to be a bit late, and they've already said, it's going to be a bit late, but hopefully we'll get everybody on as quickly as possible, and then we can take off as quick as possible. So we'll be as close to our flight time as was doable, basically, is what the airline was saying. And then, however long it was, the doors were closed. I think it was only about 5-10 minutes, and the captain came over and said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm ever so sorry, but because we were a little bit late, it means we've missed our time slot, and there's now a queue of 9 planes, and they've missed their time slots as well. So we don't know how long it's going to be, but at the moment we're looking at around about an hour and a half before we can take off, but we'll have to sit on the tarmac and be ready to go. Well, you'd have thought that they'd have just said that we weren't going to feed you for the next 5 weeks with how some people kicked off, because this wasn't anybody's fault. These things do happen, things, especially when you've got that tight time schedule. I would rather them go with safety rather than every plane trying to take off in their own time. But a lot of people on the plane, this is not right, this is how it should be, this is our ideal, this is what and because their ideal wasn't matching up to the real world, i.e. we were going to be sat on a tarmac, this was causing them discomfort. And there was one particular lady on the aisle opposite me, and I had to keep my head down and look in a different direction because it was making me chuckle because of her accent partly and the way she was saying it. If I'd have wanted to be stuck on a plane for 2 hours, I could have flown an extra 2 hours somewhere else. I could have gone to Egypt. I've never actually heard anybody say Egypt before, which I thought was really quite funny. So beautiful. I love their accent, not taking the mickey at all. Just loved it. But she was getting herself really worked up because how things were, we were on the tarmac. There was nothing else that we could do. We were in a queue waiting to go. But this is how things should have been. And if they were going to be late, then she could have gone to Egypt, and she could have, flown further if she'd have wanted to be sat on a plane for longer. And the more agitated that she was becoming because these two things didn't match, the more her frustration was building. Now, she had her baby with her, she had her husband and her mum with her. And her frustration, because those two things weren't matching, meant she was becoming more and more agitated and was taking it out on her husband and her mum, and not in a very big argumentative way, but was becoming very snippy, and it was commented on. Now, I'm not passing judgment on her at all, because I know I have definitely done something very similar to that in the past. Who can raise their hand and say, yeah, I've done something like that? Jane's already said, been guilty of this before, and sure I will again. But let's have either a thumbs up or a heart of going, yeah, this is me. I've done this before, where I've got really annoyed, agitated, snippy, angry, pissed off, frustrated, upset, whatever the word is you would use, because this is how things are, i.e. I'm stuck on the tarmac and I can't go anywhere. And this is how it should be. People should be, yes, there's lots of thumbs coming in now. Of this is how things should be. Everything should be running on time, and people getting annoyed. There's loads of thumbs coming in. So it wasn't just her, and that's why I'm not passing it from judgment. Clarice is waving her hello as well. And the other example of this was again, where both hands way up. Yes, Donna, me too. We've all done it, but when we can take a step back and hear the insanity and the idiocy of it, I think we can put things in perspective in a different way. And the other thing last week was the weather. Now, obviously, being British, we never talk about the weather. Now, we're in Spain, and of course, Spain in June, you assume that it's going to be bright, glorious sunshine. And I had assumed that. I only took one outdoor kind of shower-proof jacket, and didn't take any jumpers. I didn't have any long sleeve tops at all. I was all t-shirts and vest tops and shorts and all of that sort of thing. Well, it was quite cold 2 days. cool. Maybe cold's a bit stretching it, but it was cool anyway, and didn't have the appropriate clothing. And yeah, and one particular day the rain was torrential. It was like a monsoon downpour. It was really big, and big loud thunderstorms. So what I was hearing a lot of the people starting to talk about, and it continued the rest of the week, was the moaning of how the weather should be. It's Spain, it's June, it should be sunny, it should be hot, it should be bikini weather, we should be out sunbathing. This is how it should be. But then their upset, anger, disappointment, frustration, whatever we might describe it as, because those two things didn't match. Because the reality was it was cold at times, and it was raining. But because those two things weren't matching, that's where that frustration came in again. And then that dialogue but it shouldn't be this way, da 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 da. And I think both of those examples, I'm sure that we could translate it across to from parenting. My child should behave in this way, but they're behaving in that way, and that's frustrating. Or it might be that people behave in meetings and they behave in one particular way, but everyone should treat each other equally, and why are they doing that? Or it might be that you're stuck in a traffic jam and you want to get somewhere fast. The list of the list of examples of the difference between how things are and how we want them to be, or how we expected them to be, is endless. But the pattern of frustration and finding life frustrating is only because we have got a mismatch, and we're making that mismatch of this is how they should be versus this is how they are. And it's that frustration, because those two things don't match. That's what causes us upset, annoyance, disappointment, frustration, sadness, anger, whatever the word is for you. So my offering to you comes from one of my favourite spiritual teachers, Adyashanti, and it's his quote, which I always remember. If I notice that I am getting myself worked up, if I am getting frustrated at life, if I am finding it a disappointment, getting upset, whatever it may be, if I notice that I'm doing that, is I remember this quote, and if I am speedy, I might be able to type it as I'm saying it. So bear with me, and you're probably going to get a bit of a close-up of my face as I type on my laptop. So let me just type this in. Let me just check I haven't done a typo. I have done a typo because I can't spell. Adyashanti. There we go. And I'm going to pin that, if that will let me, to the top. So I'm going to pin that quote to the top so that you've got that there. But a sure way to suffer is to argue with what is. And I think that for me, the reason I love that quote is that it's a reminder that if I'm getting upset, frustrated because this is how I believe things should be, and this is how things are, that's what's going to cause me suffering. That's what's going to cause me discomfort. So say, for example, I could use that in relation to how my body is. My body's, let's say it's overweight, let's say it's unfit, let's say it's too short, too tall, whatever it is. So my upset becomes because I've got this ideal that I'm comparing it to, and I'm making this wrong. I'm making how it actually is wrong, rather than looking at, okay, well, let me be honest with myself and get on the scales, or do the measurements, or have a fitness test, or have a health checkup, and look at that and go, okay, well, this is where I'm at. So what would I like to do? What can I do about that? Or maybe it's the bank account, and I'm getting annoyed and frustrated because the bank account isn't as I want it to be, and I want to have more money in there than there is, and why have I not got X amount of savings? That's going to cause me suffering if I get upset, frustration, annoyance, disappointment, whatever, rather than being honest and looking at that account and going, okay, so this is how my finances are, what needs to change, what do I need to do differently, and so on and so forth. Let me know if this is making sense, by the way, so that, yeah, just let me know if this is making sense. And let me know what you think about this. Caroline says, I had a woman say to me yesterday, I was plump, which I'm not. It was brought on in conversation and it's made me upset and stressed since yesterday. It's put my confidence down a bit. Sometimes how people say things can affect people's confidence. So Caroline, this is something that I will go over time and time and time again, and it's very much prevalent in both of my online courses that I've got. Whenever you see me speak, if you ever come on any of my workshops, I will say this time and time and time again. Nobody can impact your confidence without your permission, or as Eleanor Roosevelt put it, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. See, if you weren't, there's got to be a part of you that believes what that woman has said, which is why it's upset you. If you didn't believe what that woman has said, if you just went, I love my body, I don't care what size it is, I don't care if it is plumping, I love my body, then it wouldn't have an impact on you. So it is about listening to how you potentially are making yourself wrong and how you're upsetting yourself over that. And that's why I say confidence is an inside job. It's about how you think about you and how you talk about you, not about how others think and talk about you. It's all to do with you. And so that's where your upset has come from, because you've then got this image of how it should be and then how it is. Now, your image is based on what somebody else, that's their opinion. Somebody may look at, I mean, come on, look at any of the magazines. You can pick up 2 magazines, for example, and somebody look at that and say, that woman's too fat, skinny, whatever it may be. And somebody else could look at it and say completely the opposite. So it's got to come from you, Caroline. So go back. If I can't off the top of my head remember which one, but there is definitely a confidence conversation somewhere which talks about that. And I would highly encourage you to go on to iTunes and watch the movie Embrace as well, because it is about you loving your body as it is. Doesn't mean to say that you can't do something differently if that's really what's required, but it is about you loving your body as it is. Deal with what is, rather than focusing just on how it should be by somebody else's rules and standards. Does that make sense, Caroline? Oh, I've just seen it says very true. So when you're dealing with, or when you're facing, or you're looking at life's frustrations, in a nutshell, it's that quote. The only reason you're suffering over it, the only reason you're getting upset, disappointed, annoyed, stressed, tired, whatever the word is because you're making how it is wrong and have decided that it shouldn't be that way. It should be this way. Well, that's not how it is. This is how it is. So when you can get to, you may not like it, and that's okay. That may be uncomfortable, but at least you know that you're dealing with it from a very honest perspective, and you can start looking at it from a different, far more truthful way to do something about it, rather than this emotional, imagined world. Laura says, I was so stressed out with work as things weren't going the way I wanted them to, and my self-confidence was being affected. So I made the big decision to go self-employed. My finances took a hit, but I'm much happier, which in my opinion is far more important. Absolutely. So it's about looking at what it is that you can do, rather than getting annoyed about what it is. So if the work situation isn't how you wanted it to be and you could do something differently, absolutely. Congratulations, Laura, for taking those steps and going for it. And I hope and wish you every success in whatever your new self-employment venture is. It's really cool. And Caroline says, I've written down what you said about loving your body. Thanks, loving my body. It's so important. And watch the movie Embrace. I would highly recommend it. Been part of the movement and watched the movie about 6 or 7 times myself, and even still wear my Embrace oops, there you go, you can see, wear my Embrace bracelet to remind me as well. So I'm with what my body's been through over the last 6 weeks. I can do nothing but embrace this body, because it's amazing, the healing and what it can do. when it's been through quite a lot. So I'm hoping that this evening's confidence conversation has given you at least a seed. That's the purpose of it, that this plants a seed for you to start thinking. Notice whenever you're getting frustrated, upset, annoyed about something, I can pretty much guarantee it's because you're saying, this is how it should be. Thank you for all the hearts. I don't know who they're coming in from and the likes. I can't see, but thank you for them anyway. My assumption is because you're getting annoyed that things should be this way, but they're this way. So drop the shoulds with them and start to deal with the reality of what is. And you've got more chance then of stepping back from the frustration and annoyance of what is, and actually being able to take responsibility and make some steps and take some steps moving forward. So before I finish, I do want to do this. Let me see if I can. Bear with me as I want to put this on here as well. So I think that sums me up, actually, Jane. Simple but effective. It was a running joke that I used to have with a friend of mine a few years back, that I used to say these tools are very simple and effective, a bit like me. So bear with me 1 second, because I did make you a promise right at the beginning of this video that I would put the link below, because I am going to be jumping on to the Bouncing Chef as I come off this call, and I'm going to go live with them as well. I really do recommend going over and joining them. No problem, Michelle. Lovely to see that you're here as well. I am going to be going over and joining the Bouncing Chef this evening for their book launch. As I said at the beginning, I know that they're giving away some fantastic things. I got to see the cookbook last week when I was out there, and it genuinely is amazing. And having both cooked from their recipes before, juiced from their recipes before, and eaten the food that they have made from those recipes, I highly recommend them. They're healthy. They are most things free, apart from you can add meat, obviously, if you wanted to. But yeah, there's vegan, there's dairy free, which is vegan, Jules. All of those different things. Anyway, I just want to promote them because I know that they've been a fantastic support with the work that I do, and just want to encourage you to jump off this call and get over to their page, like their page, and support what they're doing as well, because they too want to make a difference to people and their lives, and they've been on a very similar journey to myself. So thank you for joining me this evening for the confidence conversation on frustrating and dealing with life's frustrations. Next week is going to be a little bit slightly different. I'm going to give you a flavour of some things kind of leading up to your summer, potentially summer holidays, so that I can share those with you. I just thought I'd do something a little bit different, so I'm going to leave you with that. Also, as a reminder that if you do have any questions, any topics that you would like covered, then make sure you email me, jules@juleswyman.com, or you can message me direct on here. It is me that answers them, and I would love to hear from you. And of course, if you want to know anything else about the work that I do, coaching, training, or speaking, then please do get in touch, and we can have that conversation too. In the meantime, remember that the only reason that you're feeling frustrated is because this is how life is, and this is how you're expecting it to be. So look at how life is, because a sure way to suffer is to argue with what is. So stop arguing with it and look at how you can do something from where you are right now. And I look forward to seeing you again next week. Bye.